Hey, very much ask
How would you like me to approach that, James?
Okay, Mike, we're at 6 o'clock.
Oh,
We're ready to roll.
That's right, you're redevelopment.
I'm just here.
I'm consulting my attorney.
Okay.
We'll call this Lawrenceburg Advisory Planning Commission meeting to order on June 4th, 2014. May I have the roll call, please?
Yes, and before I do this, I'd just like to make a comment that J.R. Holcraft has resigned for personal reasons off of this board, and Monday night, council appointed Aaron Cook as the new member, so this will, what I read off will change from what you have in your packet.
Okay.
Okay, Jane Pope,
Present.
Mike Lawrence,
Here.
Dennis Folke is absent. Paul Seymour,
Present.
Tim Denning is absent. Jim Crook,
Here.
Aaron Cook is absent. Joe Johns,
Present.
and myself.
Okay, has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? And if so, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Staff report, Mr. Clark?
Nothing in addition to what was included in the packet.
Okay, thank you. Okay, New Horizons, and I'll let Mr. Clark explain that we're going to table that due to improper notification.
Yes, we had to pull that off the agenda. They did not make the proper notifications required by Indiana State Code. So it'll be up to them whether they want to get on next month's agenda and do it properly or whatever.
Okay. Robert Rezzo.
Good evening. For the people that don't know me, I'm Robert Rezzo. I'm here requesting conditional use for the property owned on 131 Walnut Street to be used as a church. And I have an application that's been submitted to the board. So I'm not sure if there's questions on it or not, but technically it's an allowed conditional use per the city code. But it does
I
require...
got one question.
Sure.
What's the name of the church?
Oasis Church.
The Oasis Church?
Yes.
This is our pastor, the pastor.
Okay, good to meet you. And I'm going to let Mr. Johns address this issue.
I guess I just have a few concerns.
Sure.
And, my recommendation to the board would be to table this just until I can look through some things.
Okay.
My primary issue with the reasons supporting appeal, which is bullet point number 7, is you're using a pre-existing non-conforming standard of variances, regarding your subsection C, stating multiple churches, schools, daycare facilities as a reason for the appeal, and in accordance with our operating standards as well as state code, that's not a reason for a variance.
I understand. I just want it stated as facts.
And also, being, in the levy district, that's a primary tax base for our city and our commercial area. And I would just like to be able to review the law regarding the lessor-lessee agreement that's reached on who would be taxed in regards to this. Because as a church, you would generally be, essentially taxed as a nonprofit organization and get a religious exemption. And I believe that's a consideration for the board to make, determining allowing somebody to establish a a business or a church or whatever into a, downtown business district.
I can help you with that if I could address it. Sure. I'm the property owner. I would continue to maintain title and ownership and obviously pay all the taxes. So the church would not be claiming exemptions on property taxes whatsoever. So you'd still get the same taxes.
All right.
Excuse me one second, just a clarification. This is a request for a conditionally permitted use, though. It's not a variance. I mean, it is the same process, but it is, conditionally permitted use is different than an actual variance request.
We'll address that, I guess, in the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Thank you. I should not use the word variance.
Right.
You're correct.
Because property tax is the only question I had.
I've got another question. I know that we have a ordinance that gives us the footage that you can't put a bar next to the church. Is that right?
Yes, there is, and I cannot tell you what that distance is. That's an ABC law through the state, and that would be for any new establishments. They wouldn't be awarded a liquor license. Now, it's my understanding that it would not have any effect on any existing bars or restaurants.
Wouldn't have
like
any
that.
effect on any existing bars, but if the church is allowed to go in the building, and that bar on the corner is notorious for changing ownership,
That could affect
that will
their
come into
liquor
play
license, yes.
big time.
Could I help you a little bit on that one, on the distances?
I'll handle that.
Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, what I'm saying is I'll look through it and render a decision based on case law and statutory research, depending on, what the, I guess, the distance in between a established church and a proposed bar can be.
I am familiar with the rules, I can quote them if you want.
Okay.
So I have a liquor license for the Jasmine Orchid at the corner of High and Vine Street.
Yeah.
And there's a church across the street, at exactly the same corner. We measured the distances, and we were adequate to get a liquor license based upon those distances to the church.
Distance.
I think it was 150 feet or something, or 75 feet, I don't know. I didn't bring it, but that distance qualified, actually catty corner across the intersection. And I do know based on research and got approval to get a license for that location. So the corner further up at Bob O's is quite beyond the distance necessary.
Well, about how long of a lease are they talking about?
The 2-year lease.
2-year lease.
Yes, and we did put in the lease that they have no objections to a bar, whether it's across the street, next door, in the area. They have no objections from the church standpoint. So
Is this a youth ministry or is it a large church? I don't know how to put it, but is it a youth ministry?
perhaps I can get the pastor to address that, if that's okay?
Hi, Justin Billig, pastor of Oasis Church. Right now, we have roughly 25 consistent attendees to our services. We hold weekly Saturday evening services, mainly because we don't have a location on Sunday morning, but we do plan to have both adult and youth ministries in the building. Yes.
And will you eventually go to Sunday morning services?
That would be the plan, and it's really based on, obviously, the churches, or the building can only fit so many people, and having multiple services will facilitate having more people being members of the church. Also, our plan is to have the upstairs portion of the building as youth ministry area. So we do plan on using the building during the week for adult groups, not solely just Bible study groups, but other community-based groups as well, and then youth ministry events as well.
Looks like it's 200 feet. But
Is it? And I'm not sure.
It says an application for a permit for premises situated within a distance of 200 feet from an elementary or secondary school or church must disclose this fact. Then B, subsection B, the local board shall state, if required by the commission, in the questionnaire, its opinion as to the propriety of the granting of the particular application.
Okay, so am I understanding then, Joe, that there would be input from this board that would go to the state on if someone was trying to, and the reason, one of the reasons too, we have a building in the city there up at the corner, 1 High Street, that currently is being used for Messer Construction's management office. That's going to wind down by the end of the summer, early fall. That building will then be available. I'm not saying that a bar would go in there, but there's always that possibility.
Well, I guess my concern is there's a lot of storefronts within the, kind of Walnut Business District that could be, available to being a bar or a restaurant. And I'm not so positive, and this is something I need to look up, but, whether or not the church had an objection to a bar, falling within that 200 feet, kind of
That's what-
radius, whether their, list of no objection would
Okay, and
include it.
if Mr. Reza could come up through one of our earlier discussions, Bob, didn't you say that you had a letter or verbiage in your
It's in the lease, it's in the
that they would
lease
not
stating that they have no
remonstrate or-
objections to being in the area, across the street, next door, or in the vicinity, to have a bar. They have no objections to that whatsoever.
Do they have the right to make that statement?
That's my question, is whether there's any statutory or case law authority dictating that the terms of a lease would be a controlling authority.
I understand the point you're making. They're saying they have no objections. No objections to the bar in the area. They're friendly to that, acceptable to it. So I'm not saying state-wise, but the bar that you're referring to at the corner at 1 High Street is out of the 200-foot radius.
Is it?
So we've got that established on the map. But I understand there are other storefronts in the area, which everybody got notification of in the mailings.
Farther down in the statute, it does say the commission receives the written statement of authorization from a representative of the church or school stating expressly that the church or school does not object to the issuance of the permit for that premises.
That would have to be done at the time of submittal or application.
And what's the controlling, well, I'm sure you don't have access to the controlling case law dictating if that ever went to into a court setting of what's the standard in order to validate that agreement. I personally think this is something that might need to be tabled for just 1 month or whenever is available to you guys, just so I can make sure and validate that the city's protected as far as bringing in new businesses and not subjecting yourself to any liability or anything like that.
How pressing is this, Bob?
Well, I would like to lease the building. My point of the whole lease is, or point of the whole application is that an empty building is of no value to me, so it has value to lease it, and that's why I'm submitting the request. So sooner the better. The church is in a position where they would like to go forward, but we can tolerate. I think it's up to them if they want to tolerate the month,
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I mean, we have no objection.
and I'm okay. We want to do it right. We're not trying to push anything on anybody.
The only question I would have, and this would be to Joe, because this board cannot rule on this issue, just forward it on to the BZA. Would you have in 2 weeks' time be able to do enough research to come up with all the answers, or do you feel that would be pressing?
I could have it done in a week.
So, and there again, I'm just throwing out options for this
So we
board
can move
on.
it to the board with no recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, that would be your option, your choice?
I'd feel comfortable doing that.
Okay.
Thank you.
And that way we would keep the docket moving and not
Yeah.
backlog anything.
That would be appreciated.
Are there
Thank
any
you.
other comments or questions from the board? Are there any comments or questions from the audience? Approach the podium, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is John Davis. I think most of you know who I am down here. I'm a property owner downtown Lawrenceburg. I've done a lot of rehab in downtown Lawrenceburg. I live downtown Lawrenceburg. I operate several businesses downtown Lawrenceburg. I have nothing against churches. Love them. I like city buildings. I like accountants and attorneys too. But we're trying to do something for downtown through both Main Street and through some of the planning that's being done through the city right now, that quite frankly, we need to take a step back and just take a breath and say, hey, we need to take a look at what we're doing here and what we want downtown to be. We have a very expensive facility here we're building down at the end of High Street. We need to support that facility because we want to attract groups, associations, meetings, and other events down here to help this city continue to get the revenue flow we have from Hollywood. By filling these spaces with other than retail or arts or theater or entertainment at this point in time, to me, is the wrong decision to make. The merchants down here are already struggling now. We need higher foot traffic. I know the church said they have like 25 members, will probably get more, and I appreciate that. I'm saying there's probably other properties available that they probably should consider, nothing against Bob, but we're trying to get some of these retail spaces, and the city has just hired a consultant, him and his wife, Hyatt and Palmer, to come in here and do a strategic plan for the city of Lawrenceburg. They have yet not they haven't begun this study yet, because they just got to think the check was just sent off yesterday for them to begin this process. But the city has already started the process, and they've already talked about all the different parties they want to get involved in the discussion with regards to what we want to do with downtown. The next phase is then to meet with each of these entities and talk about what they think is going to be the best overall solution, and then hopefully come up with a plan of action that will be the best for downtown Lawrenceburg and get some consensus about how we want to move forward. And I believe we're going to find out that it'll not only create a theme for downtown, but it's going to create a theme that involves, again, theater, arts, bars, music, all the things that we would want to be able to propose to anybody who's coming into our area here to appeal to them if they're going to come down here and have an event in our downtown area. If we lose the opportunity to preserve some of these spaces and bring in some retail, whether it be unique shops for women or toys or whatever it might be down here, I think we're going to just hurt ourselves long term. We're going to get to a point where we aren't going to be able to attract any investment dollars coming in here, because there's a lot of money that has to be put in these buildings, and if you don't have the opportunity to get the return on those monies, and believe me, I'm upside down on all my buildings right now. A church, not retail, is not going to do one thing to either preserve or increase the building's value downtown. So I don't know how we would ever attract another investor to come in down here to invest downtown when the opportunity will be zero. If we don't fill these spaces up with businesses that are willing to come down here and make a commitment to downtown like I have done, and some of these folks out here have done the same thing, I think we're selling our city short. And I think there's a lot that needs to be done down here. I think we all need to get on the same page with this. I think there needs to be some consensus and, quite frankly, some agreement on some things. We don't all agree on everything that we want to do down here, but we know that hopefully with this consultant, we might be able to get to some things we can move forward on. And I think we all have a lot at stake here, both businesses and property and just the investment. I live downtown. I love downtown. I think it has such an opportunity down here. We've got an incredible riverfront. We've got a bike trail. So we've got this incredible facilities being built. It still surprises me the number of people who've not had a chance to actually go through it, because once you go in it, you just realize what an amazing place this is going to be. I had the opportunity to, when I was living in Sharonville for 16 years, to see the event center over on Chester Road develop, and we had all the naysayers over there too, saying that this wasn't going to make it, and why are we doing this on a road that, quite frankly, every business over there has failed. The restaurants turned upside down. New restaurant would come in, it would fail again. Will Griner, who actually was heading up the facility over there when they first built the first edition of the convention center over there, was probably a little questioning about it himself, and nobody could really understand what would you do in a city that basically is known for warehousing and low-income housing. Why would you be building a convention center? They've since expanded that convention center in Sharonville, I think, over 4 times. The economic impact to the region is, they think they did a $12 million investment, and I think it was last year, the year before that, it brought in over $34 million of additional economic revenue to the area. I think this facility is going to have some of the same impact for here. We don't know what those dollars are going to be, but if we don't fill that thing up, and they book theirs out 3 to 5 years in the future. So we know there's a need for these type of facilities, but we've got to fill them with groups, and I think with the name on this hotel, Hilton Doubletree, that's a pretty strong drawing card. But we've got to have some reason for them to come into downtown. I don't want them coming to this facility and all of a sudden they have to go somewhere else to downtown Cincinnati or to Kentucky or to somewhere else for their entertainment, or even come here. In fact, we probably will use a lot of the groups, and then a year from now, we're going to be saying, well, I told you so. Nobody wants to come down to this convention center. Well, if we set it up so that happens, that's exactly what's going to happen. But more importantly, we're going to lose some of the existing businesses we have downtown. The retail will probably have to leave because, quite frankly, they simply will not make it. I mean, I don't know what other ideas we have at this point in time, but I think we owe it to the city. I mean, if they're putting up $30-some thousand for this consultant, I think we're going to hopefully come up with some good ideas. And the nice thing about the consultant, they're going to be drawing in information from all the different people who basically are shareholders and have things at stake here in the city, the planners, the council, all the investors who come together, whether it be through the county or whoever else. And I think we need to give this organization an opportunity to come forward with a plan that we know what hopefully the future is going to lay in front of us. And then hopefully we can come to some agreement. Now, if we want all downtown to be nothing but offices, that can happen. But you're going to say bye-bye to any of the retail or businesses downtown if that's what we want. But that's also going to eliminate any of the residential communities I've been hearing our council talk about for years and years. They want to build it up. We've already lost a dollar store. I don't know if we have an opportunity to get one down here again, but unless we have supporting services for residential, you're not going to have residential environment into downtown. There will be no places for them to eat, no places for them to shop, nothing for them to do, no entertainment. The bars will go away. I'm not sure how a church would even be affected with the stuff that Main Street does. We do wine walks. We have people who are taking wine glasses sometimes on the street from one business to another. I can see where we could have objections from that if a church didn't like it. Music on the River. We've got people bringing in coolers. They've got some beers in their coolers. I can see where a church could potentially have objections to that as well. Again, we need to have an area downtown that's a designated entertainment, arts, theater area, quite frankly, so that we can now build up that particular part, save these spaces that we have available, improve those spaces, and get investors to come down and invest their money so people don't have to keep on coming back to the city and asking for money. Because there's a reasonable chance of getting a return on money. You don't have to go to others to keep on asking for money to bail them out or to make it work. Mike, you're a big proponent of that. You want people to have skin in the game. I believe it too. You've seen me. I've done it. But not everybody's
I don't
willing.
agree with what you're saying.
Huh?
I don't agree with what you're saying.
From what standpoint?
Well, you're trying to tie a building owner's hands and not be able to lease his property. You have professional services leased in your property? You going to throw them out today?
No, but if they didn't
collect, you going to stop taking their lease payments?
Would I stop?
To do that to him.
If that lease terminated, I would go for retail next time. You know I would.
That's not fair to him.
And this is just my opinion. In my opinion, bringing one more church to this downtown area, because we've already got several churches in the downtown area, and even in the outlying areas.
Right.
In District 1, we've got 2, 3 churches over there. I don't see how it could hurt anything in the future for any retail business or anything just by being there, because they're there now and they're everywhere in town. And they agree to the 200 feet, being from a bar, they don't have a problem with that.
Well, they're doing it by contract, but again, I agree with Joe. They have a statutory right.
All areas.
But what if somebody goes to the event center and they want to go to church?
They can walk right down the street.
They can walk right there to go
Or
to
see an
church.
attorney or go to an accountant. You're right. I agree. If that's what you want downtown to be, that's exactly, I mean.
But the thing is,
It's called planning. It's called planning.
But still, if the city doesn't own the building or you don't own it, I don't see how we have the right to tell him, no, he can't lease his building.
No, I'm not trying to do that. I'm saying at this point in time that we need to just step back and hold off doing this for a first period until we give our consultants an opportunity to take a look at this whole thing.
But that's saying don't let him lease his building.
Well, I guess you're right, I am.
That is not fair to him.
But he could rent it to retail, he could rent it to
That doesn't.
stores, he could rent it to.
We can't dictate that.
Well, I know you can't.
Just like you have.
I'm giving you my opinion as a property owner, an investor, a business owner down here who operates down here. You guys don't have a business down here. You don't invest down here.
We don't. we don't have a vote on what's going to happen.
I understand.
And I think we're getting carried away with what we're not here for. We've heard the
Well, I'll let somebody
attorney
else talk to
speak,
him.
and and I'm sure we're going to table this until we get a few things straightened out.
Well, I'd like to say something.
Go ahead. I'll let you.
Yes, sir, come to
Thank
the
you.
podium, then.
My name is Dennis Hutchins. I live at 118 Walnut Street. It's my wife, Mary. Bob, we're here in opposition of this, but it's not personal to you because you're a friend. And church and state would never be separated by me on purpose, because I believe in church. But I don't want to get Mike, I don't want to get you or Jane upset, but this appeal is really, I hope, from this side of the room to Bob, more than it is to Mike and them. Because they are limited, as Mr. Seymour said, of what they can do. They're going to recommend something ultimately. But I think what we're really saying is that I've got 35 years in the convention business with the Hiltons and the Hyatts and, the Fontainebleau, the Miami, everything. And I can tell you, one of the focuses, this city has hired a marketing manager for somewhere in the neighborhood of $80,000. We have an assistant to the mayor that have both spoke recently about this group that John's talking about that's going to come in and do an assessment. I'm just trying to talk intelligently now for a minute about the problem. They're going to come in and do an assessment to try to bring the downtown area specifically to be in simpatico with the convention center to make retail work. So I guess what we're kind of saying to you is, we don't want to hurt the church, and boy, I'd go out there and help you try to find a place or something, is give it a moratorium or a stay for a while if you could, and let this group have a chance to come in and assess this and see what we need to do for downtown. I mean, we have an investment downtown. Bob, we're $400,000 into our property. And, because you built my apartment on top of it. We tore the whole back apart. But what we're trying to say is that we don't want retail to not come here because they see the convention center and they don't. One of the things that conventions do, and everybody up here needs to know this because it's the truth, is your marketing director either knows it or doesn't know it yet, but they have to try to grab the associations that are coming here. And every one of them has exhibitors. Let's say, 'cause you've been to exhibit shows, all of you, right? Whether it's private or corporate or public shows. And each one of those exhibitors gets a little stuffer in their exhibit kit. Do you need pipe and drape? Do you need carpeting? Do you need electric? Do you need a room, place to stay? All those wonderful things that the exhibitor gets 6 months to a year before they ever come to a convention facility. Because the association or the group that's brought them here picks an exhibit company to do that. Probably be one out of Cincinnati because it's closer. And this is an opportunity for marketing to put together a nice packet of all the businesses downtown, to the bars, or to welcome dinners, or cheese walks, whatever you want to call it. There's all kinds of opportunities for businesses to promote Lawrenceburg. And for the community and the retail, the T, like we call it a big T, High Street and Walnut for a few blocks. That's kind of precious. You've got one of the greatest properties, Bob, with that bank for retail that we could possibly want.
And I'll probably put both of your questions to rest when you're done. I'm not.
All I'm saying is, Bob, it's not directed at you and it's not directed at the church. We're just asking to give that retail group a chance that's been hired by the city, because we want retail down here. Mary and I are 100% supportive of it. When Main Street wanted to rent from us, I had a contract in my hand from a lawyer for a group, and they were going to give me 4 years. And Pat and John called me, and they said, we'd like to move Main Street here because we've got the parking lot to do like shows and exhibits. I said, I'm with you. I gave them I lost $200 a month. I didn't lose it because I never rented it to lawyers. But they were very upset that I took Main Street over them, and Pat, I think, found them a spot someplace. But Mary and I are committed to the...
I know you are.
Okay, Bob, that's all I'm trying to... This isn't really directed totally at them, it's at you too.
I know. I'd like
So,
to help.
all right, Bob, I'll shut up.
All right, good.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
Ms. Fay, you may come to the podium.
Okay.
going, wow, I just came here to sit and observe and be of support to my friends, and you are my friends too. But as I'm sitting here listening, I'm not from this area. I've been in Lawrenceburg almost 26 years. I have family born and raised in Glendale, Ohio. I see both sides of the fence. I'm a Christian, but at the same time, I am also concerned about our community. There is a monthly community meeting called CASA, and I'm sitting here and I'm confused because at the same time, I'm also concerned about our community growing in dollars, but at the same time, I'm concerned about our youth and the heroin addiction and all the bad things that take place that are personally killing and hurting our community. So at the same time, although I would love to see more economic growth here, I would also love to see a balance. I would love to see a ministry, outreach, whatever you want to call it, come here that would offer programs and services to all people and that's not afraid to get out there and talk to the alcoholic, the gambler, the pimp, the prostitute, the pusher, whoever you may be. They're saying that they don't care that there's bars and there may be things, other obstacles and people that don't support them. They're still willing to be there. I don't think they're trying to force their beliefs on anyone. They just want actually a great location to be able to attract whoever that may need some help, that may walk in off the street from that boat, from that casino, from that convention center. So I guess I'm a little troubled because I would love to see our community continue to grow in dollars, but at the same time, we are losing our own citizens that have been born and raised here. And at what point will we raise the bar and step up and save our own community and not be worried about the people that are going to come in here and spend their money and leave, and we're still left to pick up the pieces of our dying children? So that's basically what I have to say. And I know there are other churches and services out there, but I haven't really seen it done. I've worked with youth for over 25 years, and I haven't really seen anyone, and people and women in ministry. I'm 46 years old, so I haven't really seen anyone that's really willing, a church that's really not to be your granny's church, but really willing to accept the person that's tatted up, that has the piercing, that has the nose rings, just all that crazy stuff. If you guys can find us a location or point us in a direction where those people are getting kicked out of ministry and not being accepted, then please help us. Help them. I'm not a member here. My church is in Cincinnati, but I support them. And that's all. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Can I say something? I very much would like to address what Jahan and Dennis have both said, and I do want to tell them I support exactly what you're saying. I support downtown being a business entertainment district. I'm familiar with the group that's going to do the study. I've been to some of the meetings where they're through Main Street and support downtown being a business entertainment district. I truly support that, and I want it to be. I've actually solicited since probably August, I believe, trying to get retail or entertainment type businesses in the building, restaurant type businesses or general business, and interviewed probably, I think, 5 really good potentials, but they're all saying timing's not right now. They're just not ready to. We almost had a microbrewery in there, which I thought would have been great for the downtown. Had 3 bars or restaurants interviewed with me. Had a business center, wanted to do retail in there, and nobody was willing to step forward and say, let's do it. So the building is empty. The 2 advantages, or one advantage, if I do rent to the church, they're putting up monthly rentals. I would be making myself personally significant investments in the property to bring the building up to standards that would make it more desirable for a restaurant in the future. I've been improving the restroom facilities to make it ADA compliant, multi-stall restrooms on the first floor, both male, female, so significant investment in that part. Making some additional first floor improvements, second floor entrance improvements. So a lot of money I'd be putting into it, which I couldn't do if I didn't have a tenant willing to come here. So the building is more prepared for the future for restaurant type of use, retail use. The other thing is, they asked me to put an out clause into the contract, which if for some reason their church fails, they want to have the ability to to get out of the lease. And I said, that's fine. The out clause can really work both ways. If there's a significant tenant potential, I'd negotiate with them and say, let's work out something to where you're not losing, you're not hurting. If you put investment in, we'll help recoup it. So that if there's a future microbrewery or something that wanted to come along and say 12 months and they're not all the way through their lease, we'd have the option through their out clause arrangement to say, work out something to where I'd compensate them appropriately through another leaser, and we'd all walk away happy. So it's a matter of fulfilling an empty building now, making improvements that would be beneficial for the future. And I think I solicit all these people trying to come in with retail, and I truly support retail and want it to be myself. I think it's the best thing for downtown. Quote, the entertainment district or business district. Well, business district by daytime, entertainment district by nighttime is perfect.
But we know you.
I support that.
Put a church in there.
Well, it's not my first pick,
No,
but
we know that.
they're a facility that would benefit the community short-term. I've talked to them all, they're good people. They bring programs that would help community, and they would also bring some traffic better than no traffic. So I'm just saying, what I'd like to have the opportunity is at least if something comes along that here's the best deal in the whole world, we can negotiate and make something to where we're not hindering downtown, is my point. And if there's a opportunity, we can make that happen. And I want Lawrenceburg to develop. I've been here for a long time, and I support both of you and everybody else that's here.
Sounds like a workable compromise.
That's what I like. So I'm a compromisable person, so I think we can do it. So that's just 2 cents I want to point out.
I'd like
We have
to
that
thank all three of you gentlemen for your statements and your ability to compromise and work through things.
Thank you.
And I believe Mr. Lawrence was going to entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a motion to pass it on to BZA with no recommendation,
I'll second it.
so there's no delay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries, and Mr. Johns will do his due diligence and have everything prepared for the BZA meeting when, Mr. Clark?
2 weeks from today, I believe.
2 weeks from today.
Mike, when will you be sending that packet out? Because I'd like to do a legal memorandum attached to whatever.
And I tell you what, Joe, maybe yet this week, if you and I can set up a time to sit down, because I've taken a couple notes or some other things I want you to address for us, please.
All right, I'll be over. I'll call tomorrow, Friday,
Okay.
and then I'll be over.
Good.
Is there any old business? Is there any more comments from the audience? Mrs. Kreider?
Just one comment that I kind of am concerned about. Mike, you made the statement that we can't tell people what to do with their property. Just by virtue of the fact that we have a planning and zoning code, you tell people all the time what to
Ma'am,
do
that's
with your
not the way
property.
I meant it. When
Well,
it's something's
but it
legit,
is.
I mean, I'll tell you what, I think it's pretty sad that I'm sitting up here hearing a conversation of trying to keep a church out of our community. I mean, I'm just,
No,
it's aggravating to me. I mean,
Mike, I don't think it's, I think you're looking at it, it's not that we're trying to keep a church out. And Faye talked about outreach. I think outreach and economic development can exist together. I think we can have both of them here.
Absolutely. That's why I don't see a problem
And
with
not
it.
a problem. But I think this is our concern, Mike. You know, I kind of look back, and over the last, I don't know how many years, one administration after another has made an investment in the downtown. I mean, go down and start looking what was done in what year, and administration after administration has made an investment. What is kind of the unspoken, or in some way maybe not totally clearly defined goal?
the thing that I've always heard is we want to bring life back to downtown. And now we've got a piece that's almost ready to open that has that potential. So it almost seems to some of us that all those investments that were made along the way could become null and void. And I think if you're a good steward, and I know you are very, very focused on being a good steward of the people's money and the people's investment, then it seems to me like you wouldn't want to nullify all the work that has been done. And, you know, at this point in time, I think that, Mike, there's just a lot of issues, and that's why I'm glad we're going to have the consultant, because I think it's important for the Planning Commission and the council and the redevelopment to all kind of be on the same page so that everybody moves together. I mean, I don't think it's anything against the church at all. I mean, religion has been a part of my life since I was born and continues to be. So it's nothing against the church itself.
Well, if you say about foot
It's
traffic,
a usage of property.
If I had a restaurant, say, I would love to have a restaurant across the street from a church, because everybody I know goes to church on Sunday. They go to eat before and after.
Mike, the churches, most churches downtown are closed on Sunday. And the churches want them closed on Sunday. So the businesses aren't open because of the churches. We get people coming in, so I'll say,
Mr. Chairperson, this is really, it's null and void. We had a motion and we passed it. They
Okay.
should be here at the BZA meeting, that's where you will get your answer, not here.
Thank you, Mr. Seymour. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion for adjournment.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. The meeting is now adjourned.
You never know which ones are going to be. It does affect us. I'm sorry.
I know, and I'm not trying to...